Welcome and good evening. Tonight, we'll drift gently into the ancient world, far from the comforts of modern life. As you relax and settle in, imagine the echoes of footsteps on stone streets, the distant sounds of markets, the gentle rustle of worn linen garments. We're about to explore ancient Rome, not the grandeur of emperors and gladiators, but the life of an ordinary Roman trying to survive in the bustling, often unforgiving city. So let's begin. Calmly, softly, and at an easy pace, with what it might have been like if you were suddenly an ordinary Roman citizen waking to another uncertain day. Picture yourself waking on a thin mattress, laid on a creaking wooden frame within the close shadowed walls of a Roman insula. A crowded apartment block teetering several stories into the smoky Roman air. You shift on the worn straw-stuffed bedding. The fabric of your tunic scratches slightly against your skin. Rough linen, hand-woven, patched in places where fabric is worn thin. Your morning begins not with sunlight streaming gently across linen sheets, but with the sounds of shouting vendors, clanging pots, barking dogs, and the steady drip of rain leaking through imperfect roofing. It's noisy, always noisy. You take a breath. The air smells of wet wood, cooking fires, and something sour drifting up from the alleyways below. The streets outside aren't paved in marble, but choked with refuse, broken pottery shards, and the runoff of countless other households stacked above yours. The drainage is rudimentary at best. Rainwater carries with it fragments of discarded food, animal dung, and worse. Your water, if you're fortunate enough to have access, comes from a communal fountain several streets away. And with every cupful, you wonder whether the aqueduct serving this district has been properly maintained, or whether lead pipes, their dangers still unknown to your world, might taint each sip. Washing yourself is infrequent. Baths are expensive, reserved for better days, or for those living closer to the larger bathhouses. As you make your way to work, dodging carts pulled by donkeys, the smell of old fish mingles with the heavy perfume worn by the wealthier Romans. Sweet flowers and decay, tangled together. Food is humble. Yesterday's bread, dipped in oil flavored with herbs if you're lucky, or salted fish paste, sharp and unfamiliar to modern palates. Sometimes when the markets are generous, a handful of olives, perhaps some cheese, but meat is rare. But the greatest danger is not what you eat or drink. It's the fire. Fires break out almost weekly in crowded Roman districts, and if one started near you, escape routes would be narrow and panicked. And yet, the Romans persist. Routine, struggle, resilience, day after day. The rhythm of their lives steady, unchanging, echoing down streets of worn stone. Now, let's gently move from the narrow alleys of daily survival to the life of one Roman who lived not in the shadows, but in the debates of the Forum. Marcus Tullius Cicero, statesman, philosopher, orator. His name echoes across centuries, not for ruling armies or founding empires, but for his voice, his words. Born into the Roman Republic's twilight, Cicero wasn't from noble stock. His family was equestrian, wealthy, respected, but not part of Rome's ancient elite. His early life was marked by intense study. As a boy, Cicero's days were spent copying texts, learning Greek, practicing speeches with his tutors. Language was his future. Cicero rose in the courts, defending clients, building alliances. His speech patterns were measured, deliberate, persuasive. He made enemies too. In Rome, every word carried weight, and behind many words were sharp blades. As the Republic frayed around him, the old Roman virtues giving way to ambition and violence, Cicero sought to steady the storm with philosophy and careful speech. But in turbulent Rome, sharp minds attracted sharp daggers. Cicero's outspoken opposition to powerful men, notably Mark Antony, earned him exile, and eventually execution. They say that when his enemies found him, they cut off his hands and his head, a brutal symbol of silencing Rome's great orator. And yet, his words survived. His speeches, copied and preserved, traveled further than any legion. Long after the fires of Rome cooled, Cicero's voice remained softly, persistently, across generations. Let's gently leave the crowded courts of politics and law now, descending into something older, something hidden beneath the very streets they once walked. Beneath the bustling streets of ancient Rome, there were hidden places, temples not to Jupiter or Mars, but to strange foreign gods, whose rites were kept secret even from most Roman citizens. One of these was the Mithraeum, a sanctuary of the god Mithras, often carved into caverns or adapted from old storerooms below street level. Centuries later, archaeologists would find them again, buried beneath layers of rubble in modern streets. These secret sanctuaries remained hidden for generations. Imagine descending worn stone steps, leaving behind the bright, noisy world above into cool darkness. Oil lamps flicker against damp stone, and on the far wall, a curious image. A figure slaying a great bull, the Tauroctony, the central icon of Mithraic worship. What did these rites mean? Scholars still debated. There were 7 grades of initiation: ritual meals, symbolic death and rebirth, feasting under flickering lamplight, a secret brotherhood. But the true meaning of the Mithraic rituals was lost with time. Christianity rose, old cults fell silent, their cavern temples buried by new streets, new structures, and the steady, inevitable flow of history. Yet beneath modern Rome, some of these hidden chambers remain, carved into the city's deep, forgotten layers, like a whisper, too faint for most to hear. Let's ascend now, one step at a time, gently, into the sunlight of elite Roman society, to a very different scene. In the grand atriums of wealthy Roman villas, life looked very different from the crowded insulae. Polished marble floors reflected torchlight. Painted frescoes lined the walls, vivid scenes of gods and heroes, bright against plasters smoothed by skilled hands. Water features trickled softly, filling the air with calm, measured sound. The wealthy dined reclining on couches, propped on elbows, surrounded by fine bronze vessels, and sipping spiced wine. Meals could last for hours. Courses of fish, game, honey-soaked pastries, exotic fruits, fragrant with the distant lands of the empire's trade routes. Music drifted from the hands of trained performers, perhaps the soft plucking of a lyre or the high, reedy note of an aulos. Poets recited verses. Sometimes, jesters and acrobats performed small tricks for the amusement of the household. But beneath the luxury, shadows. Many servants working these feasts were enslaved. The grandeur of the host depended on the quiet labor of those with no wealth, no freedom. And still, outside the villa gates, the hum of Rome never ceased. Markets, arguments, carts rumbling by. 2 worlds, intertwined yet separate. One noisy, precarious, full of risk. One cloaked in wealth, yet also carrying its own burdens. As we drift now toward the close of this gentle journey, think of those contrasting lives. One roof above another, one world on top of the next. Thank you for joining me tonight on this quiet walk through ancient Rome. If you're still awake, I hope the soft sounds of history have helped your mind drift far from the stresses of today. The Romans, poor and rich, eloquent and ordinary, walked narrow streets, faced uncertain days, and carried their hopes forward, one footfall at a time. Now, as the echoes of their world fade into the softness of the present moment, may your sleep be deep, steady, and peaceful. Good night.